Are you following this page yet? Are you following TCCN? If not, you're missing on some great content. Please like and follow. My name is Roop Rai, and welcome to Ideas on Point. In October 2020, Canada's immigration minister announced that Canada aims to welcome at least 401,000 new immigrants per year. But when these immigrants come to Canada, many of them are not able to find gainful employment that matches their skill set or their education. The work culture here in Canada that they find themselves in is also starkly different from their home country, and that poses a challenge. And of course, the lack of Canadian experience is also a massive roadblock. However, did you know that there are many free of cost, government funded bridging programs, internship programs, employer networking opportunities, access to job fairs, career fairs, and help with recognition and licensing of professional credentials? To talk about that and to provide information on an upcoming job fair, today we're joined by Meenakshi Lamba, who is the employment lead at Immigrant Services Calgary. And we're also joined by Rachana Tiwari and Anant Agarwal, who are both professionals and new immigrants to Canada. And they'll share their stories with us as well. Let's get them onto the screen. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Roop.
Hi, thank you so much for making the time today. Really appreciate it. I think this conversation is going to be beneficial to me as well, as much as anyone else who is a newcomer to this country, because we often talk about immigrants, we often talk about South Asian issues on TCCN as well, but there is so much information out there that we don't have access to. So thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Really appreciate it. And hey, we have Ali joining us today. Hi, Ali. Since Ali never comes on screen, he doesn't know that he has to turn the mic on when he says hello.
Hello. Yeah, no, I do that for people behind the scenes, but I forgot to do it for myself.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. And just to let you know, the audience know that Ali produced today's show. So he is the mastermind behind today's show. So whatever we talk today, whatever information we impart in this show, it is all Ali's doing. So thank you, Ali, so much. And thank you for joining us as well on screen too. So if you have any value addition to do, please, you're more than welcome to share your point of view.
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Roop. Thanks for bringing me and forcing me to come on screen today. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and looking forward to it.
Lovely. All right, let's start with Meenakshi. Let's put her in the hot seat first before I put Anand and Rachana on the hot seat and ask about their personal stories. So before we delve into their personal stories, let's talk to Meenakshi and ask what is her work that she does with Immigrant Services Calgary.
Thank you very much, Roop, and thank you, Ali, for bringing me into this show. I work with Immigrant Services Calgary, and we help newcomers. When I say newcomers, it's people on PR or refugee status with employment-related resources. We help them with cover letters, resumes, networking, coaching them, guiding them to find the right jobs, as well as we host job fairs, networking events, and a lot of other events for them to benefit from that.
Okay, so you already mentioned that you help newcomers, and your name of your organization has immigrant in it. So what does immigrant mean? And when you mention newcomers, is it people who've moved to this country in the last 10 years, in the last 20 years? What does newcomer mean? How do you define it?
Thank you, Roop. So for us, anybody who has a permanent resident status is a newcomer. Some people might have been in the country for 10 years and still have a permanent resident status. We can help them. But once you get your citizenship, then there are other agencies that help Canadian citizens. So for us, newcomer is anybody that has permanent resident status or has refugee status.
So like I mentioned in my intro, a lot of immigrants that are moving to Canada right now, especially from the South Asian diaspora, they're coming with education, they're coming with postgrad degrees. And when they come to Canada, they find themselves completely clueless about what the next step has to be. And the employment that they're looking for is not gainful enough. So how do you help these people? How do they find you? That's one of the key questions. And I think that was what we discussed before we started doing this show, is that a lot of these immigrants don't even know that you exist. They don't even know that these services exist. So can you talk a little bit about that? How do people find you? And those people who are not finding you, why are they not able to find you?
So actually, when any immigrant lands in Canada, they get a booklet by IRCC, and all the immigrant serving agencies are listed in there. But when I talk to people, we have realized this a lot of times. People don't even go through that booklet. I got a client who came to see me after 2 years. He said when he got that booklet, he just threw that booklet away. And after 2 years, he was going through his stuff and he found that booklet and he realized there were agencies helping newcomers. And then he approached us. So definitely, there is a gap here. When we talk about immigrants availing these services, as per the numbers, only 40% of the immigrants avail these services and 60% do not. Also, we have noticed a lot of times when people come to Canada and they are professionals, they think these services are not for them. They think these services are only for people that either need financial help or need, if you need English classes, or if you're looking for low level jobs, these agencies can only help there. But with us, we only deal with professionals with Canadian language benchmark 5 and above. So it's not that these services are only for people that need financial help or need help with education, with English classes. These agencies help professionals a lot, which people are not aware of.
I think I'll bring Anand into this conversation now. This is his time to shine. And tell us about his experience of moving to Canada as a professional, and what has your experience been in terms of looking for a job, in terms of finding your first job, and then, Ali has something to say too. Give me a second, Ali. Anand, so could you speak about your experience? But before you do, let me bring Ali in because he raised his hand first.
I just wanted to come in and right after what Meenakshi ji said, right? 60% of the immigrants don't avail these services, right? And this is the reason and the motivation behind bringing this show together and I wanted to do this for that 60% of people that don't know about these services and can take advantage of it, right? That's why I wanted to bring Meenakshi ji and Anant on the show and have their stories told and bring the awareness that these things are available. People should utilize it. Right. So.
All right. Thank you so much, Ali. I love the community service agent side to you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's bring Anant in. He's been quiet too long. Hello, buddy. What's up? So can you tell a little bit about your journey?
Thank you, first of all, Roop and Ali, for giving me this opportunity. So yeah, I moved to Calgary, Canada towards the late 2019 from Texas. I was working there as a petroleum engineer, and the reason I chose Calgary as my landing city was due to the petroleum connection. And initially, when I moved in, I was trying to, find job related to oil and gas sector because to maintain the continuity with my education and with my past experience. But it didn't really come as a surprise. Oil and gas industry has been in a bit of a trouble in last few years. And that's when I realized there was a two-part thing which was missing. One was some sort of a skill update, and second was an introduction to Canadian work culture and Canadian corporate culture. And to my surprise, it took me a while, as Meenakshi said, that yes, when a professional moves to the country, I was one of them who was not really aware of what all things this country has to offer. And there are bridging programs, there are services to help the immigrants, which I didn't really take advantage of initially. But yes, eventually I came across Meenakshi, and she had been a big help since the day I met her, when it comes to fine-tuning my resume and especially networking with this whole COVID lockdown restrictions we have, there has been multiple online events being conducted by her, and that is something which I feel was one of the main reasons I was able to secure a job. The other factor, the second part, was availing a bridging program which Canadian government offers, which again was very helpful for me to update my skill sets, not just as a petroleum engineer, but as someone who can be employed in other side of industries too.
You know how they say in Canada, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know when you're looking for a job. So networking, yes, building those networks are really, really important. So having someone who can hold your hand through the process, and especially when you're in a new country, you don't know anyone and you're by yourself, you maybe have a family or two, but they may not be in that field that you are in. They may not be in oil and gas, so they may not be able to help you in that respect in finding a job. So having a professional who is situated in that field, someone who knows the employment, someone who knows the employment industry or who knows the employers, and connect the two of you and find you the right fit. Actually, I have a question for you, Meenakshi. A lot of people that move here with degrees, their degrees are not immediately recognized. Is that something that you help with as well, to help get their education accredited in Alberta?
So we do guide them how to get it done. We guide them to go to IQAS and get their degrees evaluated. Some professions are licensed. So if they have to get into a licensed profession, we also coach them and guide them how to get into that licensed profession, as well as there is a lot of study groups for those licenses, and we actually walk them through. We show them the path towards those study groups, and they can attend those study groups to get those licenses, especially engineers. So when an engineer lands in Canada, they need a PEGA. So we coach them, guide them, and we also have coaches and mentors that help these people on how to get. So I have a brilliant coach who got his APEGA here. So he is now a coach with us, volunteers with us, and he helps people on how to get APEGA. And then we also coach them and guide them. So for an engineer, APEGA is not the only route, which people don't know. We also tell them there is another licensing body called ASSET, which licenses technicians. So because APEGA takes long time, they can get licensed by ASSET as a technician, start working as a technician, and when they get their APEGA, they get into the engineering field.
Mm-hmm. I actually have another question which is related to this topic, but I'll come to that after I speak to Rachana, because Rachana also came here to Canada in 2011 as a professional, and the journey since. Rachana, can you talk to us about that?
Hi. First of all, thank you, Roop and Ali, to have me on this platform. I'm really glad to be here. Yeah, you're right, Roop. I moved here in 2011. And before that, I hardly worked back home because of our family situations and everything. But when we moved here, I did have an IT degree. And but because I was pregnant, I was not able to work right away. So when I decided to work, I was away from my field for a long time. So I had to, because I didn't want to stay away from my daughter for a long time also. So I decided to do some part-time job and get some Canadian experience, because Canadian experience is very important here, right? So it doesn't matter what experience you have. If you don't have Canadian experience, nobody's going to look at your resume. So I did get some Canadian experience, and while I was working part-time, and I got an opportunity, and I entered in oil and gas as a project coordinator. So as Meenakshi said, when we move here, we do get booklet, but nobody looks at it. That's true. I agree, and I regret that. I should have looked. And if I knew these services are available at that time, I would have entered in the main force way earlier, because I was not aware of these all these organization, all this help. Even though when we landed here, we had a different situation because we had a family here. We were so lucky to have family. We didn't have to look for when you move here. You have to look for accommodation. You have to look for first thing is accommodation. So we landed, car was waiting outside. Our family was there to welcome us. So we didn't have that worry that we have to look for accommodation. How will we manage? We don't know anyone. We were welcomed, and we already had like friends, because our family had already had friends. We already had that circle who helped us in like accepting this country as our like feeling as home and accepting this country with warm heart, right? So luckily we were so lucky we didn't have to face all those network issues, like you have to network, you have to find the people. As Roop said, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters who you know. So luckily we were able to go, like we didn't have to go through that path. We already had some path paved for us like in advance. So that's how we landed here, and we were lucky in that sense.
Yeah, like you said, that if you had read that booklet when you were when you landed here, it would have been made things so much easier for you. So it always, like, it really intrigues me that people have we have these services here, and yet people are not accessing them. Circling back to what we were talking to Meenakshi before I brought Rachana in, we often hear of immigrants coming into this country with postgraduate degrees, and yet they don't get the job because they don't have Canadian experience. But they're immigrating to these countries using those degrees. Like, that is part of the process. Like, when you're filling in that immigration application, you get certain points for your education. So you are accepted into this country using that degree, and they accept that education in that application. However, when you come here, that education is not being accepted by the employers. So there's that mismatch, and you can't legislate the employers either to start hiring people with these degrees either, right? I don't think you can legislate that. But how do you work around it?
We have been placing newcomers with multiple organizations, and actually there's a lot of organizations that are willing to hire newcomers because they see more potential in them, and they say they work harder. I agree to this because I'm an immigrant myself, and I know we try to prove ourselves and we try to work harder. The only thing that I think is, so coming from India, I see that a lot of people that file for their PR in India, there's a lot of forums there where people can go and attend and see what people are talking about. I get clients who contact me before landing in Canada. They do video chats with me, and they talk about, what their process should be. If they need a license, should they start the licensing process right away? Which we are fine. You can start the licensing process even before you land here. So all those things do matter. It's just that sometimes people are not aware, or maybe even if they're aware, they think, so I can share my story. When we landed in Canada 19 years back, I totally thought, because I was coming from India, working in a diplomatic mission. My husband worked for Rolls-Royce Aviation, and I thought we'll land in Canada and we'll find a job in 2 days. Yeah. That's what my thinking was. And I think that's what most of the people think, because you're a professional. But then when you land here and you start struggling, that's when you start trying to find resources. And that's when people start finding these agencies. And that's when they start approaching these agencies, but they lose time because they did not know about these.
So I think the crux of the matter here is lack of awareness of the agencies. That's what it comes down to, that there is help available, and there are people who are going to guide you through the process when you come to this country. And yet, for some reason or the other, we're not able to capture that audience, that we're not able to capture the newcomer who's coming into Canada. So that's something that needs to be fixed. Okay. All right. This is what comes out of having these conversations, is like there's that 60% that just falls through the cracks, literally. Rachana.
I totally agree, Roop. Like, even though living here for 10 years, I didn't know there are bridging programs available. If I knew that, I would have done it like long time back to get into IT, into my field, right? But I just came to know last year. Then luckily I was lucky enough to able to join that program, but I was so surprised, like, how come I didn't know? Maybe someone told me in the starting, but I was busy. I didn't pay that much attention. But yeah, that is lack of information. We can say people don't know much about it now. So Meenakshi is right. Like, it's lack of awareness. Totally.
And there are some internship programs too, which Anand talked about, right?
Yeah.
Can you Can you speak about that, Anand?
Yeah, sure. So I'll say from my own story, as I mentioned, I was working as a petroleum engineer, and I can see there was a need for me to, make a career change out of the oil and gas industry. Currently, I'm working as a fraud data analyst with ATB. So that's a fintech industry, which is, I'll say, polar opposite. Now, in between these two, what happened is when you go for one such bridging program, the first good part is they are being like the tuition is being sponsored by the government of Alberta. So a lot of programs you don't have to pay from your own pocket, which as a new immigrant is really helpful for you. Second thing is that while you are studying as a full-time student, which is like 6 hours of class, and then you have assignments to take back home, there is a good chance that you will not be able to work even part-time. And there is help available by the government, by the Alberta Works, which kind of provide you financial assistance to the full-time students who are actually attending these bridging programs. Now, these programs are mostly 5-month or 6-month long. And then towards the end, there is a mandatory internship provided by the program itself. Now, what I took was a software developer program, which is being offered by Manpower, and it was being taught in SAIT. I started in January and I finished somewhere close to May. That's the time when we had this COVID situation, the pandemic situation at peak. But still, they were able to, secure an internship for me. I was able to network enough to find one. And that internship actually gave me my first Canadian corporate experience, and also my first Canadian references, which I later used when I was applying for regular jobs or full-time positions. So yeah, that internship actually makes a lot of difference for a lot of people who are, trying to get their foot into the door. And using these bridging programs and that internship opportunity can be a big help. Another thing which I would like to add on to what Meenakshi mentioned, that yes, one of the things which people don't know a lot of times is that, for me, if I say, let's say I did my job in India, my first job was in India, and finding a job in India versus finding a job in Canada is very different. I mean, networking in itself is a big point. There is not much importance given to networking in India, but in Canada, that's probably the primary tool of finding a job. Now, second thing, resume writing. There's a very different format of, every country has their own format of writing a resume. Now, these look like small things, but as a new immigrant, you come here and then you apply to like 500 jobs and you don't hear back from them, and you start self-doubting that, hey, am I doing something wrong? You might not know that, but yes, maybe your way of writing your resume, maybe you don't write the cover letters, which is another important thing over here. Maybe you're not networking enough, and those are the gaps which actually these services, they fill these gaps for you. You have the technical skills, you have all the qualifications, and still you're not employable. That's not because there's something wrong with you, it's just because of these minor things which can be assisted.
Yeah, I think you've made a very important point there, that these services are free of cost. I think, that's something that, it's, again, like I keep saying, that this intrigues me, blows my mind that these services exist and yet they're not being accessed. I will get to you, Rachana, in just a second. But Meenakshi, after Rachana says her bit, I want you to address what do immigrants who've been here longer than 10 years, let's say, they're no longer newcomers like Rachana, for example, can you help them, or is there another agency that helps them? So after Rachana talks her little bit that she wants to say, shares her part, and then we'll go to Meenakshi.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what Anant said. Like Anant mentioned the program for the newcomers. In the program I was enrolled, that was like you have to have some work experience, or maybe you have to be on EI in the past. So like there are programs available for the newcomers, and there are programs available like if you have been laid off and you want to switch careers and you have some kind of experience in Canada, any kind of experience, and they will help you in switching the career. And these kind of programs are also funded by government, and you have to have Canadian language benchmarks, I think minimum 6 or 7. And you will get the internship as well, but you have to secure the internship through your network or through interviews as you apply for the jobs. So yeah, I just wanted to add on what Anand said.
And Meenakshi can help with that too. Is that true, Meenakshi?
So we help people that are on PR, but there are other agencies that help Canadian citizens as well. McBride is one of them. It's called MCG Careers. The second one is Prospect. They help Canadian citizens too. MCG Careers actually has a beautiful program for people that are laid off from oil and gas industry. So they have a program for them, trying to reestablish them into different careers, into alternate careers that they help them with. We help people that are on permanent resident status or refugee status. So for us, there's a limitation here, but yes, definitely. So our agency, we totally believe in complete versus compete. So we actually collaborate with all the agencies, and we do a lot of referrals. We, if somebody comes to me and they want to take a program which is not with us but with Making Changes, I will happily do a referral to Making Changes, because we believe in helping people by completing, by joining hands, and not competing.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to give you 3 case scenarios, and you're going to have to tell me that if you'll be able to help each one of them. And if you're not able to help each one of them, who would you help? So my dad, who moved here in 1990s, he is doing well in his life, but for some reason he wants to work for somebody right now. So can he come to you? He's been here. He's a Canadian citizen. He's been here for a very long time now. Who would he go to if he wants a job?
So he can, we actually have a seniors program where he can come and contact the coordinators for the senior program, and they can help him. There is another program with Kirby. It's called Options 45, if I'm not wrong. Options 45 or Options 55, it's called. And it's again for seniors. They help them with resumes, cover letters, networking. They do everything for them, and they help getting them jobs.
Okay, see all this information. We'll put all this information with links in the caption of this show. And if there's over the time, like we find out more resources that are not being mentioned here today, we'll add them into the caption as well. So make sure you read that caption. So come back to the thought experiment. So person number 2, they moved here as a student for masters, and they did their master's degree here, and they did their PhD here, and they're working here. They're in their 40s. I'm using my husband as an example. So he all of a sudden he doesn't want to work in oil and gas anymore. He wants to do something else. Where would he go?
It totally depends what is their status in Canada. So if they are still on PR, we can help. If they are not on PR, they are a Canadian citizen, then they'll have to approach the other agencies that can help them.
Okay, so that would be McBride, for example.
Yeah, McBride or Prospect. Some other agencies have some programs for Canadian citizens, but not. McBride has most, and Prospect has most.
So when you talk Canadian citizens, when you say Canadian citizens, so Canadian citizens would include everybody in Canada, or would it be immigrants who became Canadian citizens for McBride?
So I'm not too sure about that. As far as I think it's the immigrants that became Canadian citizens. There are also agencies that help Canadian citizens that are born-raised Canadian citizens, but then those are different. So these programs are for people that immigrated and became Canadian citizens and need help.
And what about first-generation immigrants? I'm sorry, I'm asking you all these questions because there's so much confusion. So what about first-generation immigrants? For example, me, I didn't immigrate here. My parents immigrated here, or my sister, brother, my cousins who are born in Canada, but they are children of immigrants. Is there anything for them that specifically caters to immigrants, or do they go into agencies which deal with Canadian citizens born in Canada?
Yeah, they will go to the agencies that deal with Canadian citizens born raised in Canada.
Okay. All right. No, that's great to know. So there's different categories, and there is help out there. It's just and if someone is actually not does not know where to go, they can come to you and you can direct them in the right direction.
Absolutely. We are going to launch a new program, not a new program, it's a new new chapter for us. It's called Gateway, and the launch is next month. So when Gateway is launched, we will do referrals. We will refer people to different services, different agencies. We'll have people who will specialize in referrals. So if anybody approaches Gateway, they will fill out a needs assessment for them. They'll get all the information, and based on what their needs are, the referrals will be done. So stay tuned for Gateway. More information will come. I think it will be on the news soon.
Oh, that's wonderful. I really think something that needs to be worked on or needs to change, and maybe we can have these conversation off the screen, really, is how do we increase that access of people to your services? But thank you so much for making the time. I think you've given a whole wealth of information that I didn't have. And I am so glad that Ali thought of doing or in producing today's show. And thank you, Anand, and thank you, Rachana. If any of you has anything else to say that we haven't covered, please feel free to add it now. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I just want to add that we are hosting our next career fair next week, which is on 25th and 26th. And the career fair is virtual, and it's not virtual because of the pandemic. This is our 7th virtual career fair. We have been doing career fairs virtually for past 4 years, actually. This all started with this idea because somebody came to me. We were doing a in-person career fair, and he said, "You're doing this career fair, and I'm not in town only on this date. And, I will miss this opportunity." So then we thought, why don't we start doing these virtually? So we are hosting the next one on 25th and 26th. And I'm sure, Roop, you will share the link to the career fair in the resources. Please register and attend. We have 30 remarkable companies attending the career fair. So our career fair works this way. There'll be a booth for the company where you go and you check the jobs. And then there is chat timings given, what time to what time reps from that company or that organization will be available for live chat. You can go and chat with them. You can go and ask them questions. You can ask them for connections on LinkedIn. So you're also building your network with that. And then you start applying for jobs. And I think Anant can also shed some light on this one because he attended the last one.
Yes, please, Anand.
Yeah, actually, it was pretty convenient. Actually, that was my first virtual career fair. And to be very honest, this limitation of not meeting people in person is a big hurdle to network. But that career fair which I attended with Immigrant Services, that was very good. I'll say I scored 2 interviews out of it, to my surprise. And honestly, I cannot emphasize enough on the importance of networking. And that is one platform within a period of 6 hours or 5 hours, you get to meet a lot of people from your relevant field in your vicinity. So yeah, I'll say do join it.
So I have the question again, Meenakshi ji. So again, is it for only refugee and PR or for everyone?
No, it's for everybody, open to everybody.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. That's great. Thank you.
We also actually have a company that is willing to offer temporary foreign workers permits to people if they do not find the skill set that they're looking for.
And when you say everybody, that includes Canadian citizens born in Canada?
Everybody. Yes, everybody that has a status to work in Canada.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. See, these are very important questions. I'm glad you're asking them too, Rachana. All right. Thank you for that information. I'll put all that information in the caption, and we will, of course, post that separately as well, because I think these platforms like TC-San, we're creating these platforms to get this information out and get more people to start getting help from yourself. Like the work that you're doing is incredible, Meenakshi. Like it, you're adding value to so many lives. You're providing jobs to people, getting people, putting food on their table, literally, and putting a roof on their heads. Like that's really that kind of support. Like you can't put it into words, the work that you do. So thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you, Anand, for sharing your story, and thank you, Rachana, for being so candid with your story as well. Really means a lot. So thank you so much once again, and it was a pleasure talking to you, and we will talk soon. I'm sure there's a lot more that we still have to delve into and uncover. All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
everyone.